Ibrahim Osman at FC Nordsjaelland. Well, yeah, he's still at FC Nordsjaelland, which is sort of a problem. He's not happy about it. He wants to push through the move to West Ham. This is really, really encouraging. Apparently, the latest news reports are that he's frustrated that the deal hasn't gone through yet. He wants to know. He wants to move. Wants to come to West Ham. And that sort of ties in with the story that ex-West Ham United employee ran late last night. Well, as you're watching this late last night, at about 5 minutes ago as I'm recording this, which was that there were 2 other Premier League clubs interested in signing him. I'd certainly heard earlier on in the week and read a report that there was at least one who was after him. This is really good. And let me just quantify that. I don't mean it's good that other teams are in for him, which I guess it is because it validates the fact that we might be interested. We've already heard Brentford. We've already heard Brighton. What I do think is interesting, though, is the fact that they appear to have been turned down, those 2 overtures, which certainly feeds it. It makes all the stories sort of bind together and come together. I think we're probably dealing with a player that really wants to come to West Ham. You can understand that. I mean, certainly not particularly him coming to West Ham above anyone else particularly. I think we've got Mohamed Kudus here, who is a massive star in Ghana. I'm not sure. I can't claim to have watched the African Cup of Nations, and I wouldn't try and kid you that I had. But as I heard it, in the group stages or something like that, he was in the team of the tournament. So he's a massive star in African football, and I think if you're a young Ghanaian lad, and particularly if you're a winger, you're going to be looking up to Kudus and idolising him. So certainly, what are you going to want to do? You're going to want to join West Ham, aren't you, to go and play with your idol? Makes total and utter sense. So yeah, I was quite buoyed to hear that news there, and if he's turned down 2 other potential clubs in the Premier League, really good. Sounds like he's trying to push through the move. Look, it's a sticking point of £3 million. Let's take it out of euros into pounds sterling. We want to pay 15 million. They want 18. There's some add-on clauses and some some sell-on clauses and stuff. It's a lot of money. It's a lot of money for a club in the Danish league. It really is. Or the Mauritian league, should we say that? It really is. It's a lot of money, and I think West Ham are probably thinking, well, it comes a point where it stops being punt money, doesn't it? And I think if it starts to get towards 20 million, you want someone who's probably a little bit more rounded, a little bit more finished. I just wonder if that's sort of playing into their thinking a little bit on that one. Hopefully we get the deal done. A player going out, so we got sort of one transfer story of someone coming in, Osman. One going out, a player that wants to leave, and it's not your usual story here. Luizão, remember him? He is a centre-back. He's not made a first-team appearance yet. So a year ago, we brought him over from Brazil. For some reason, we got him. I remember it was in a winter window, and we got him for a free, which was weird. I remember thinking at the time, maybe obviously our contracts run from summer to summer, and it was really weird that the Brazilian club had let him go. Quite highly thought of over there, but I remember saying at the time it was a bit weird that he was available on a free, and there weren't a ton of clubs beating a path to his door. Now, what's interesting, he really wants to leave. There's been 2 loan deals from Portuguese clubs, and a load of Brazilian clubs want him back. There's a lot of interest in him, and to use a phrase, not my phrase, someone else's phrase, his entourage are disappointed that West Ham won't let him go. And I've got a certain amount of sympathy for him. Not that I would ideally have any sympathy for anyone that has an entourage. That just having an entourage, I think, doesn't qualify you for sympathy. But anyway, let's put that to one side for a moment. I think I've got some sympathy for the lad. He's come to West Ham. He hasn't been given a chance. I don't want him to get a chance, by the way. I saw him play at Wycombe, and that was enough for me. He's nowhere near first-team level. He's really not. But I do feel some sympathy for him. If he's not going to be able to further progress his career at West Ham, let him go home. Let him go to Portugal. Portugal's a great breeding ground, isn't it, for a lot of the Brazilian players, because obviously it's the same language, so which is obviously Danish. And so, yeah, I mean, I would really, really hope that we'd sort of let him go, particularly as he appears to be desperate to leave, doesn't he? Victor Boniface, or Victor What's-His-Face, as we like to call him, the rumours keep circulating. It's just old, churned-up crap, as far as I'm concerned. Forget it. Leverkusen are just riding highs. He's going to win the league. I mean, there's going to be some uncertainty, I guess, with regard to his manager, Xabi Alonso, possibly going to Liverpool after the Jurgen Klopp news. I get that. I totally understand it. But, midway through the season, they've got a real chance. Nobody wins that bloody Bundesliga title apart from Bayern Munich. Well, this season, it appears that Leverkusen are staying in the race, aren't they? I know it was close last season. went down to the last game, and Dortmund bottled it, really, didn't they? I say they bottled it. I think they did. But they were missing Jude Bellingham for the last game, that final clincher, which is going to be a tough player to miss, isn't it? Just forget it. Boniface coming to West Ham. Why would he turn down a league winners' medal, Champions League football, all that stuff, to come to West Ham? I think you've got to be realistic. I understand why Osman would have come to West Ham. Boniface, no, forget it. I'll just touch on Callum Wilson, if you pardon the expression, not in that way. You lot are disgusting. Callum Wilson linked to West Ham. Come on, forget it. Just can't see it. It is one way of getting him to stop scoring against us, of course. I think the link, whatever, both, was because Will Salthouse, who previously was a sort of favoured agent of David Sullivan, that's his agent. So I think it's two and two. Sorry, I was just checking my microphone. Got a bit paranoid, and I just thought, oh no, I've been talking for 6 minutes, so my microphone wasn't switched on. It was. Didn't really fancy having to do that again. Will Salthouse, easy link to make. I don't think so. Look, Callum Wilson. Funny enough, I don't even see him as David Moyes' team. I find that hard. But good player. Don't get me wrong. I'm not suggesting he wouldn't be a better option than Danny Ings in there. But anyway, forget it. There's no point discussing it any further. I don't believe it. Not for a second. I'm quite happy. If we sign Callum Wilson, I'm quite happy to come on there and say, oh, I was wrong. I got it wrong. I don't believe it. There was just one other thing I wanted to say before sort of finishing the video, and that was it was about Manchester City. Obviously, really delighted with the interactions on the channel, and but because we've been dealing with Calvin Phillips and Lucas Paquetá, there's been a lot of the same comments every day, and I find myself replying to the same thing. So I just really wanted to give my opinion on it rather than sort of doing it every individual thing. I think the two lines of thought are that actually we may be able to get Phillips on the cheap because Man City might get relegated because they get charged with these 115 charges by the FA, by the Premier League or whatever. The other thing is possibly Lucas Paquetá won't want to go to Manchester City because of these charges. And I see a lot of people saying it. Look at the comments over the last few days. I mean, a lot of people are saying it. So here's my understanding of it. I don't think, and I don't know much about this at all, I don't think that Manchester City are getting punished any time soon. And for that reason, I don't think we are going to be able to get an excellent deal for Calvin Phillips because Man City is suffering or they've been relegated. I still think they're going to be in to buy Lucas Paquetá. And do you know why? Because I just think it's totally different to the Everton situation. Even if you just look at it from a legal point of view, Everton admitted to guilt. They admitted their guilt, which means you don't have to prove the guilt. And Man City are denying it. So it's not even like the Premier League or the FA or whoever's dealing with it have got to prove one thing. They've got to prove 115. And it's also really, really easy to prove, even if you wanted to prove Everton's, because Everton's just basically saying, yes, OK, we overspent. That's not what's going on with Man City here. What's going on with Man City is the accusation is not actually you spent more than the 105 million you're allowed to lose over 3 years. It's really, really clear. What the accusations are with Manchester City are you pretended to have more sponsorship income. You've created shadow companies, you've created ghost companies to pretend to have more sponsors so you could filter in money from Abu Dhabi. Those are the accusations. And they're completely different. To try and prove that is not going to be easy. And because they're not admitting culpability, Man City are going to have a load of really high-powered, the best solicitors in the world, who are going to argue that. I think they're going to drag it through the courts for as long as they possibly can. So for that reason, I just don't see this situation where next season, Man City find themselves in a championship, so we get Calvin Phillips on the cheap, and they can't sign Lucas Paquetá anyway because he's worried that Man City won't be in the Premier League anymore. I don't think you do. I think if Lucas Paquetá is still considering going to Man City, I'd imagine you'll get a load of reassurances from Man City saying, don't worry about it. We're cool. We're not. We're going to have this stuff wrapped up in legal red tape for the next 5-6 years or whatever. I plucked the 5-6 years out of thin air. But if you're being charged, and they still, if you're being charged with 115 cases, then realistically you can defend 115 cases. So that's going to take a very, very long time. Now, just my thoughts on it. I find myself sort of typing it every day. I just wanted to sort of put that out there that I don't take any comfort in the Phillips and the Paquetá situation from the fact that Man City will find themselves in the Championships next season. I just don't think it will happen. Anyway, they're my thoughts. Osman, really, really pleased that he wants to come in. Luizão, let him go, as they sing in Frozen. Callum Wilson, don't think so. What's his face? No chance. I'll catch up with you tomorrow.